Hi everybody, Paul Cameron here with Speed Up My Search, and this is going to be a crash course in how to develop prompts in ChatGPT. Let's dive right in. All right, we're going to start right from the start. I've done a number of presentations on ChatGPT and prompt engineering, and about halfway through the first more advanced prompt, usually somebody says, what did you mean by prompt again? So I'm going to start right from the start here. So when you were to go to Google, if you were to type a question in here, this is what you would call running a query, right? Asking a question of Google, and then you can go through the however many thousands or millions of results that would come out of this. So let's say, for example, you wanted to, if you were an IT director and you wanted to connect with a CIO at a specific company, what should you say in that message that you send them? So you could Google, what message should I send to connect with a CIO on LinkedIn? And then that's going to give you all those results to kind of cull through yourself. Or if you go to ChatGPT, you can do the same thing and put that question in here, but in here, this is called a prompt, okay? And the way that ChatGPT has been explained to me in terms of the how it works was that when you're typing into an application like you're texting somebody or typing on a computer and it suggests what the next word is going to be, that is kind of what it's doing. It's pulling up the word that has the highest statistical probability of making sense in what you're trying to say next. Well, in ChatGPT, it's doing that to like the next 4 pages of information. So obviously, the more information you give it, the more context it has about the conversation, the better it can accurately predict what those words are that you're looking for. So with that in mind, there is a structure to how you would put together a prompt in ChatGPT. If you just said this and asked a question just like you're doing a Google search, you're going to get a response that is not going to be appropriate, right? So, for example, I asked, how do I connect? Well, this, they don't give you that much room, right? You got 300 characters in LinkedIn to write that connection message. Nope, that's not going to work. So we're going to start with a fresh one. And the first part of the structure, you want to give it a role, and then that's going to narrow it in to at least a subject matter. What I like to do that's maybe a little bit different than what you see in this role assignment in my chat prompts is I will always also add an expertise to that subject matter. So for example, act as a senior IT recruiter, that's the role, with expertise in professional networking for jobs. All right, so now I've really got a specialty within the subject, and that's going to help narrow down what I'm looking for even more. Okay, so from here, we want to give it some context. So we start with a role that has an expertise, and then we go to the context. And I'll tell you, with context, I don't think there's a right or wrong with this, at least in my experience. And I've tried crafting these perfect context sentences and things, and just speak your mind. You just type, even if it's a little bit too verbose, just write down what you're thinking. So, for example, I'm an IT director. I would like to connect with a CIO on LinkedIn who works at a tech company where I want to work, trying to craft a short connection request message that will stand out in a positive way and that will have the highest probability of getting him or her, in this case I'm using him, to accept it. All right, so there's the context of what I'm trying to do. Now the next piece is I want to give it some parameters on how I want the output. And with ChatGPT, you can say, give me a table with these as the columns. You can say, give me a pro-con list. You can say, number your results. You can say, give me a snippet that I can just copy and paste of code or whatever. There's so many different things that you can do. But in this particular case, the parameters I'm going to give it are that this message should be 50 words or less, 3 sentences or less, and the tone should be respectful, positive, and interested, right? And you can tell it what kind of tone you want it to take as well. And if you can give it examples, that's always best case scenario, and then it can kind of model what it gives you, the same type of output that you tell it to put together for you. In this case, I don't have a specific example that I want to throw in there. I want to get it to give me some examples. the last thing we want to do here is just give it that instruction. Tell it what it needs to do. And anytime that I'm asking it to give me text, you know, a short line or two, I always have it give me 5 or 10 different ways to say that instead of just one. It gives you one, then you can like, oh, maybe it could be better here or there. When you have 5, you've got more ideas happening. Okay, and I click submit, and it's going to give me 5 different messages that should fit within the parameters that we've given it. Now, if for some reason it gets stuck halfway and doesn't give you what you want, or it's just completely off base, you can hit regenerate here, or you can edit the message that you've given it, which I'll show you how to do that here in just a minute. So as you go through the answers here, whether you think they're fantastic or you hate them all, whichever, I would suggest using the be critical of yourself instruction, which I know that I'm going to mention in these other videos that will be coming out here on the channel soon. And the be critical of yourself message is just simply asking it, hey, what's wrong with what you just did, right? Be critical of yourself and tell me why these messages would not compel the CIO to accept the invitation. All right, and now it's going to go through and it's going to tell you why these are awful, right? Which is great, right? And that's hard to ask of a person to do. Oh, thanks for doing all that hard work. Now tell me why this is awful, right? They're going, well, I don't think it's awful. This is a machine. Totally okay to do that. And it's going to give you some good critiques of these messages. Now, if this were me doing this, I would ask it then to get some clarifying question. This is another key element to using ChatGPT, right? So considering these criticisms, ask me clarifying questions to learn anything that would help you to improve these messages. And then it's going to give me a bunch of questions that will help it to craft better messages. All right, but since this is an example and a crash course here on YouTube, I'm not going to go through and answer each one of these questions to create those improvements. Instead, I'm going to go back up to this where it says ask me clarifying questions. I'm going to hit the edit button here, and I'm going to replace this question with, you know, considering your criticisms, let's think step by step. And when I say that, that is an actual, that's almost like a command within ChatGPT is the way that I like to think about it, because it's, you know, again, the more back and forth you have, the more you chat with ChatGPT, the more context it has. When you give it that instruction of let's think step by step, it's having some of that internal back and forth on its own behind the scenes, right? And that's going to give it better answers that get output to you. At least that's been my experience so far. I'm getting better answers when I use the let's think step by step to craft 5 new messages with the original parameters, and I repeat their parameters that will have a higher probability of being accepted. So then I click send on that one, and now you see it's 2 of 2, and I can still see the previous response if I hit that little back arrow, but I don't need to do that. Now here are the improved messages. So this basic structure of a prompt is number 1, you assign a role with an expertise, and then give it some context, set the parameters, and give it the instruction. And if you can give examples, that's always a major plus. All right, and then from there, I would have it be critical of itself, be critical of the answer that it gave you, and how it might be able to improve that answer. Have it ask any clarifying questions to make sure it's got the information that it needs. And sometimes it gives you more ideas when you have it ask those extra questions, and then have it improve those answers based on its own criticisms that it's given you so far. Okay, let's talk about attaching profiles or attaching documents to a prompt, which is simple enough. There's a paperclip right here. You just click this and attach the document. But in a recent video that I created about how to use ChatGPT to analyze LinkedIn profiles, I talked about attaching the person's profile, and that I would explain that in this video. So we'll go back to Jeff's profile, which is the profile that I used in that video. This is the CEO of LinkedIn, and just simply go to this more button here on anybody's profile, and you can click save to PDF. And when you save it to PDF, it will then go into your downloads folder, wherever your downloads go, and you can attach it, and this is what it would look like. Now, if you, for whatever reason, can't attach a document into ChatGPT, I would not recommend copying and pasting manually everything that's on whoever's profile that you're copying, because it's going to get all these ads and just silly things in here that you don't need, extra links and activity and whatnot. So what I would suggest is to use this PDF, still save it to PDF, click anywhere in here, and then you're going to click Control A, which is going to select all of the text, then Control C, which will copy it, and then when you go over to ChatGPT and you click in this box, you can click Control V, which is paste, and the whole profile will be pasted over here. And I would do that at the bottom of whatever prompt that you are using. I would put, here is the profile, colon, and then the profile would be below. The next thing I talked about in that video is that I would show you how you can compare commonalities with people. I mentioned, hey, look through this profile, and what commonalities do we have? What sort of things do we have in common? Did we go to the same schools? Do we have similar interests? Did we go to work at the same places? Those sorts of things. And the way that I did that on my side, the way that ChatGPT knows what my interests are to compare them to, is in the settings area, which you'll see settings here. And I always hesitate to talk about settings in any platform because they always change from time to time. So if at some point it's not there, there's always going to be a settings somewhere. So go to the settings, and then under personalization, you have custom instructions. And I'll show you what I have here for mine, specifically when it comes to commonalities. I actually use that word as kind of a trigger word or a catalyst word that will then clue ChatGPT in that, oh, I need to compare this to what's in the custom instructions by using that word commonalities. So when I ask you to find commonalities when reviewing a LinkedIn profile or a resume, compare our education, industries, professional experience, groups, and interests. Here are mine. And then I list through education. I went to Illinois College and Jacksonville, and that it's a small liberal arts school, because that'll give it more information if it doesn't necessarily recognize what school it is that the other person went to, but they list it's a liberal arts school. The high school that I went to, the fact that I was in Second City, I'm in the Chicago area, so we went to Second City, and I used to work at the Illinois School for the Deaf, and the industries that I'm in, the companies that I'm in, different groups, and things that I'm interested in, playing chess, public speaking, Chicago Bears being the best team ever, and except in their records, of course, those sorts of things. And then that way I can compare those to that person and their profile that I'm comparing. Another thing you might want to consider doing in terms of how you would like ChatGPT to respond, I put in here, write in a friendly, personable, yet professional tone. Always add the confidence level of your answer. When your answer includes facts, always provide a valid URL with the source of your answer. If you speculate or predict something, inform me. Sometimes it makes stuff up, and I want to make sure that I know when it's making something up versus when it's giving me facts. I found that to be very helpful in my responses. And then lastly, if you do an analysis, like here's the LinkedIn profile analysis I did on the last video, thinking, boy, I wish I could show this to somebody. You absolutely can. This up here, you can share the chat, and you can generate this link, create the link, and I can share it, or I can open a separate email, and that's been super helpful for me as well. So with that, that's again, very quick crash course here for you. And with this information, that should help you with the other videos that I have out on crafting some more advanced multi-step prompts to help make your search much more efficient and faster. All right, so ChatGPT does not have to be overwhelming or scary. As long as you know what you're doing, which is just a simple matter of looking it up, it's easy to do for just about anybody. All right, now it's time to get to work. I'll see you there.